there is a moment in the journey of the divine masculine that changes everything. It doesn't happen when he first meets you. It's not when he feels attraction, and not even when he begins to sense a connection. It occurs at the exact point when something within him recognizes with complete clarity that you are unlike anyone else who has ever entered his life, that you are truly one of a kind. And once this realization settles into his awareness, everything begins to shift. The way he sees you changes. The way he treats you evolves. Even the way he relates to you transforms at a level he cannot fully explain. Throughout his life, the divine masculine encounters many women. Some may be beautiful, others intelligent, some humorous, others accomplished. He may even form relationships, build memories, and share meaningful experiences. Yet deep within his mind, there often remains a quiet sense of replaceability. The belief that if one connection ends, another similar one can take its place. However, when he meets the true divine feminine, when he recognizes the one who resonates with the frequency of his soul, something fundamentally different occurs. In this video, I will outline 5 clear signs that indicate the divine masculine has finally understood that you are truly one of a kind. I will also explain why this realization transforms your dynamic completely, and most importantly, what you must immediately stop doing if you want this perception to arise. Before that, it's essential to understand why it often takes the masculine so long to reach this awareness, and why many women never trigger it at all. From a young age, the divine masculine is conditioned to categorize, compare, and evaluate. He learns to view the world through systems of hierarchy, classification, and competition. He grows up believing there is always something better, newer, or more desirable available. This mindset extends into how he perceives women, even if he is not consciously aware of it. When he meets someone new, his mind naturally begins making comparisons. Is she more attractive than the last? More intelligent? Easier to connect with? He may not say these thoughts out loud, and he may even feel they are unfair. But they exist as part of a deeply ingrained mental pattern shaped by cultural conditioning. He places women into categories, and within those categories, he forms rankings. Here lies the issue. When you try to prove your worth, when you present your qualities as if you are being evaluated, when you attempt to become the best possible option, you step directly into this comparison framework. You place yourself in a position where he can measure you against others from his past or future. The moment you enter this dynamic, you lose the chance to be seen as truly one of a kind. Because being one of a kind is not a category. It cannot be compared or ranked. It exists outside of all systems of evaluation. It is the presence of a woman who transcends the structure he uses to understand the world, someone who doesn't fit into any predefined space, and compels him to form an entirely new understanding just for her. This cannot be achieved by trying to excel within existing categories. But it only happens when you are so authentic in your expression that he has no previous reference point to define you. Early in the journey, the divine masculine may feel strong attraction toward the divine feminine. He may experience chemistry, intensity, and connection. But at this stage, these feelings still operate on the surface level of attraction. He can feel all of this and still think, she's amazing. But if it doesn't work, I'll meet someone else just as amazing. He has not yet reached the deeper realization that you are irreplaceable. He is still influenced by the illusion that there are always other options available. This is where many women misunderstand the process. They attempt to challenge this illusion by proving they are the best choice. They try to be more attractive, more engaging, more available, more understanding than anyone else. However, this approach only reinforces the very belief they are trying to break. It confirms his tendency to see relationships as a matter of comparison and selection. The only way to dissolve this illusion is to step out of it entirely. Do not try to become the best option. Do not compete. Instead, remain grounded in your own identity, fully aligned with who you are, and detached from the need to be compared. When you exist in this way, he begins to perceive that you operate on a completely different level from anyone he has known. And when that recognition finally occurs, when he realizes you are not participating in the same pattern as others, something shifts within him at a fundamental level. And the first sign that the divine masculine has recognized you as one of a kind is subtle but clear. He stops comparing you to other women. This goes beyond simply not mentioning past relationships. It means he no longer evaluates you through the same lens he uses for everyone else. Instead of measuring you against external standards, he begins to see you as your own standard. You can notice this in the way he speaks. Previously, he might have said, "You're the smartest woman I've met," or "You're more beautiful than anyone I've dated." While these seem like compliments, they are still based on comparison. Even if you're placed at the top, you are still part of a ranking system. But when he truly sees you as one of a kind, his language changes. He may say, "Okay, you're different from anyone I've ever met," or "I can't explain you, you're just you." He stops comparing because comparison no longer applies. This shift is also visible in how he responds to the presence of other women, whether in real life or conversation. Previously, there may have been curiosity, attention, or even subtle interest. But once he recognizes your uniqueness, that dynamic changes. It's not that other women disappear, but they no longer hold the same significance. They register simply as people, while you stand apart as something he cannot define, yet deeply recognizes as meaningful. This happens because once the masculine perceives something truly unique, his internal search begins to quiet. The constant evaluation, always looking for something better, naturally fades. Not because he consciously decides to stop, but because, at a deeper level, he understands he has encountered something that cannot be replaced. And this is important to understand. You cannot force this perception by trying to appear unique. You cannot deliberately construct traits to seem special. Anything done with the intention of being perceived a certain way becomes a performance. And while performance can impress, it can always be replicated or surpassed. True uniqueness emerges only when there is no effort to perform. It appears when you stop trying to be anything at all, and instead exist fully as you are, raw, unfiltered, and authentic. When you no longer shape yourself to fit expectations, adjust yourself for approval, or present yourself strategically, that is when real individuality becomes visible. When you allow yourself to be fully who you are, with all your contradictions, complexities, and imperfections, you become someone no one else can replicate, even if they try. The second sign that he has recognized your uniqueness is even more telling. He begins to fear losing you in a way he has never experienced before. This fear does not appear as insecurity or controlling behavior. Instead, it shows up as deeper attention, more genuine care, and a more consistent presence. He starts behaving like someone who understands he is holding something rare and irreplaceable. Before reaching this realization, the divine masculine may care for you deeply and even love you in his own way. But somewhere within, there is usually an emotional safety net. The quiet belief that if the connection ends, he will recover and eventually find someone else. He may not consciously think this, and might even feel uncomfortable if the idea arises. But that sense of security still exists, preventing him from fully surrendering. However, once he truly sees you as one of a kind, that safety disappears. He finds himself in a level of vulnerability he has never known, because he understands that losing you does not mean finding a replacement. There is no equivalent, no alternative version. It would simply mean losing something that cannot be found again. And that realization affects him deeply in a way no previous connection has. You can observe this shift in subtle changes in his behavior. He becomes more aware of your emotions, more thoughtful in how he communicates, and more present in your shared moments. This does not come from a desire to control or impress, but from a genuine understanding of your value. It is similar to someone who has always dealt with replaceable things and suddenly receives something truly rare. Their level of care naturally changes. He may also show a new kind of concern when he feels you pulling away, or when he senses he may not be honoring the connection properly. This concern is not rooted in unhealthy insecurity. It comes from an honest awareness that something valuable could be lost through carelessness or lack of attention. It is the natural response of someone who has finally realized the worth of what they have. But there is an important truth to understand here. He can only reach this awareness and feel this genuine fear of losing you if your actions show that you are willing to walk away rather than lose yourself. If you cling, tolerate behavior that goes against your values, or try to hold on to the connection no matter what, this perception will never form. On a deeper level, he will sense that you are not truly unique, because your behavior reflects patterns he has seen before. Your uniqueness is revealed through how you relate. It comes from having clear, non-negotiable standards. It means being willing to stand alone if the connection does not respect who you are. It means valuing yourself enough to reject less than you deserve, even if it risks losing someone you care about deeply. The divine masculine recognizes true value only when he sees that you already recognize it within yourself. And this is not about playing a role or pretending to have high standards to gain his attention. That approach does not work, because he can sense the difference between real boundaries and emotional strategies. Authentic boundaries come from self-respect and self-awareness. They exist because you genuinely cannot accept situations that go against your core. On the other hand, manipulative behavior comes from fear and an attempt to control outcomes. The divine masculine, especially as he becomes more conscious, can feel this difference clearly. The third sign is perhaps the most profound. He begins to see you not only as someone he loves, but as a mirror reflecting his true self at a deeper level. He realizes that you do not view him through social roles, achievements, or defenses. Instead, you see who he really is. Through being seen by you, he starts to see himself more clearly. This happens because the true divine feminine has a natural ability to move beyond surface layers and connect with the deeper essence of the masculine. This is not done through analysis or questioning, but through a quiet presence that recognizes truth without needing explanation. When he feels seen in this way, when he realizes you can see beyond his defenses and still choose to stay, something within him opens. He may begin to share parts of himself he has never revealed before. Not because you push him, but because your presence creates a space where he feels safe to be real. He may talk about fears he has hidden, insecurities he has never admitted, or dreams he was once afraid to express. And each time he opens up and sees that you remain present, accepting him as he is, the sense of your uniqueness grows stronger. He understands that your connection is not based on appearances, but on truth. Most people are drawn to the version he presents to the world, the confident, successful, composed image. But you see beyond that. You recognize the complexity, the uncertainty, and the vulnerability beneath it. and you value that reality, not the performance. When he becomes aware of this, when he realizes that you see him clearly and still choose to be there, he understands he has found something rare. Anyone can admire what is visible, but very few can connect with what is real. This realization changes his behavior. He stops trying to constantly impress you. He becomes more relaxed in your presence, more natural, and more open. He allows himself to be imperfect, to be vulnerable, even to show weakness at times, not because he knows your perception of him is not dependent on maintaining an image. He becomes more genuine and at ease with you than with anyone else. And this experience is not only comfortable, it is freeing in a way he may have never known. At the same time, this does not mean accepting behavior that falls below your standards in the name of understanding him. Seeing his true self does not mean tolerating less. It means recognizing his highest potential while still maintaining clear expectations for how he should show up in your life. It is about seeing who he is at his core and valuing that truth, while refusing to accept actions that do not align with it. This balance between deep understanding and firm standards is exactly what makes him realize that you are truly one of a kind. The fourth sign appears when he begins to include you not only in his present life, but also in the vision he holds for his future. This is not about vague promises or general ideas. It reflects a deeper shift in how he imagines his life moving forward. You are no longer seen as a meaningful yet temporary possibility. You become a natural and expected presence in everything he envisions. Before this realization, the masculine may care about you deeply and even speak about the future. But those conversations usually carry a conditional tone. If things continue to go well, if we remain compatible, we'll see how it unfolds. There is always some mental flexibility that leaves space for other outcomes. However, once he truly recognizes you as one of a kind, those conditions begin to fade. Not because he consciously decides to commit, but because he can no longer picture a future where you are absent. You can notice this shift in how he talks about what lies ahead. He starts including you naturally in his plans. He does not ask whether you want to be part of them. He simply assumes your presence, because to him, it feels obvious. When he speaks about where he wants to live, the kind of life he wants to build, or what he hopes to achieve, you are already part of that picture. Not as an addition, but as something essential to the life he is imagining. This happens because when the masculine perceives someone as truly unique, he understands that person is not just a part of his journey. They transform the journey itself. You are no longer just an interesting experience along the path he was already on. Instead, you influence the direction of that path. You make him reconsider his priorities, desire things he hadn't considered before, and value aspects of life that once seemed unimportant. Once he recognizes that you have changed the meaning and direction of his life in this way, he can no longer separate his future from your presence. At the same time, there is an important paradox. He can only form this vision with you when you are already grounded in your own future, when you have your own direction, your own ambitions, and a life vision that is strong and independent. You are not waiting for someone else to define your path. It is precisely this independence that draws him in. He wants to be part of your future because he sees that your life already holds depth and purpose. Being included in it feels like something valuable, not guaranteed. If, on the other hand, because you are waiting for him to shape your future or placing your life on hold until he decides where you fit, this perception will not develop. It signals that your life revolves around him, and that role could be filled by someone else just as easily. That does not reflect uniqueness. It reflects dependency. Being one of a kind means you are actively creating your own story. You are not waiting for someone else to write it for you. And when he sees that you are fully engaged in building your own life, he begins to want a place within it. At that point, he naturally starts including you in his future as well, because he cannot imagine building that future with anyone else. This also requires you to be willing to move forward without him, if necessary. You must remain committed to your own growth, your own purpose, and your own evolution. His presence becomes meaningful, but not essential. Interestingly, it is at this stage of independence that your presence becomes even more compelling to him. He sees someone who does not rely on him to live an extraordinary life, but who may choose to share that life with him, if he proves himself worthy of being part of it. The fifth and deepest sign is this: he begins to understand that the love he feels for you is not about you completing him or filling something missing. Instead, he realizes that your presence reflects something higher within him. It reconnects him with his own true nature. You do not become important because you meet his needs. You matter because being around you brings him closer to the most authentic and elevated version of himself. This is very different from how most people define love. Many relationships are built on mutual needs. One person seeks validation, the other offers admiration. One seeks security, the other provides stability. It becomes an exchange where each person fills what the other lacks, creating a temporary sense of completeness. But when the masculine truly recognizes your uniqueness, that dynamic shifts. He understands that what he feels with you is not about filling gaps, but about rediscovering himself. Your presence reflects his own inner strength and truth back to him. You do not complete him. You awaken him. You do not supply what is missing. You bring attention to what already exists within him, but was inactive. You can observe this when he begins to grow into a better version of himself, not out of effort to impress you, but because something within him naturally rises. Around you, he becomes more aware, more present, and more aligned with his values. This change does not come from pressure, criticism, or attempts to reshape him. It comes from your presence, your authenticity, your alignment with your own truth, which creates an environment that encourages growth. When he realizes this, when he understands that you influence him simply by being who you are, he begins to see your value on a much deeper level. He recognizes that while others may offer comfort or companionship, very few can inspire genuine transformation. At that point, he understands that what he has found cannot be replaced or compared. He may begin expressing how you inspire him, not in terms of external success, but in how you encourage him to live more honestly, to make decisions based on his true values rather than fear or social expectations. Your presence may remind him of goals he had set aside or parts of himself he had hidden in order to fit into the world around him. This kind of transformation only occurs when someone truly one of a kind enters your life. And here is the final truth, one that challenges much of what you've been taught about relationships. There is nothing you can actively do to make him reach this realization. No specific behavior, words, or experiences can force him to see your uniqueness. The only thing that truly matters is becoming so grounded in your own truth that your very presence reflects who you are. This means letting go of the need to be seen in a certain way. It means releasing the desire for him to validate your worth. It means being so connected within yourself that you no longer rely on external approval to define your identity. So, paradoxically, it is at this point, when you feel whole within yourself and stop trying to be perceived as special, that your uniqueness becomes undeniable. Because real individuality is not something you perform. It is something that naturally reveals itself when you stop trying to be anything at all. It emerges when you remove conditioning, survival patterns, and the roles you have adopted to gain acceptance. It is who you are when nothing stands between you and the honest expression of your inner self. And when you live from that place, open, real, and unfiltered, the divine masculine naturally recognizes that he is encountering something rare. Not because you tried to convince him, but because authenticity is self-evident. What is real does not need to prove itself. And when he is in the presence of someone who is no longer pretending, knows who has let go of all masks and simply exists as she is, something within him responds to that truth. What makes you one of a kind in his eyes is not your qualities, achievements, or appearance. It is your willingness to remain true to yourself in a world that constantly encourages conformity. It is your ability to stand in your truth, even when that path is solitary. It is your capacity to love without losing your identity, to connect without becoming dependent, and to open your heart without abandoning your sense of self. When the masculine encounters a woman who embodies this balance, someone who is both deeply connected and fully independent, both open and self-sufficient, he recognizes something that is not easily found. Most people move between extremes. They become either overly dependent or emotionally distant, either too available or too guarded. But you are able to hold both sides with balance because you have developed inner stability. And it is this level of integrity that he recognizes as rare. Not perfection, but authenticity. You do not hide your flaws, yet you are not defined by them. You acknowledge your vulnerabilities without allowing them to control you. You simply exist as you are, with all your depth and complexity. When he witnesses this, it leaves a lasting impression. If you followed this far and realize that you may have been trying to prove your worth instead of simply living it, if you see that you've been seeking validation instead of grounding yourself in your own truth, then you already hold the key to changing the dynamic. And that key is not doing more. It is doing less. Not trying harder, but allowing more. You not proving anything, but simply being. The divine masculine recognizes your uniqueness when you stop trying to make him see it. He values you when your actions show that you value yourself first. He begins to fear losing you when he understands that you will not lose yourself to maintain the connection. Because being one of a kind is not something achieved through effort. It is something revealed when everything that is not truly you is removed. When you allow yourself to be seen as you are, without hiding behind perfection, strategies, or the need to please, your authenticity becomes clear. And in a world where many people are trying to be something else, someone who is simply themselves stands out in a powerful way. That authenticity, that courage to remain true to yourself, even in solitude, is what leads him to see you as not just special, but truly irreplaceable. And when this realization settles within him, when he understands that he has encountered something that cannot be replaced, everything changes. The way he sees you, the way he treats you, and the way he values your presence all shift naturally. But remember, this cannot be forced. You can only become so fully yourself that if he does not recognize it, it simply means he is not ready. In that case, your path remains the same. Continue being who you are and allow him to follow his own journey. The masculine who is ready will recognize the feminine naturally. The one who is not ready cannot be pushed into awareness. So the real question is not how to make him see your uniqueness. The real question is whether you are fully living it regardless of who notices. Are you expressing who you truly are without hesitation? Are you grounded in your own truth without needing approval? Are you living in a way that reflects your individuality? When the answer becomes yes, that is when your uniqueness becomes impossible to overlook. If this message resonated with you, and you understand that your individuality is something to live rather than prove, share this in the comments. I am one of a kind, simply because I am. This shows that you understand it is not about convincing anyone. It is about fully embodying who you are. And if you're looking for practical guidance to strengthen this sense of independence and inner alignment, there are resources available to support your journey. From the ebooks 21 Days of Transformation with Carl Jung and How to Manifest Your Twin Flame are linked in the pinned comment. Thank you for choosing to become who you truly are, regardless of who is watching or acknowledging it. I'll see you in the next video.